Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Broad Belt Speaks. And today we have random thoughts, and we've already been having a great conversation
Yes, we have.
about
Yeah.
the law that was passed in Texas. If you haven't heard, that a woman is not allowed to have an abortion after the first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
So before we even jump into that, we want to say that we're in Flux Creative Studios. We have our going on 2 decades now, the well-renowned engineer of the 21st century and 20th century. Kurt. So,
thank you, Kurt.
Yes, always.
Yeah.
Thank you. We jump in. So you're right. So again, for everyone, what the speaker was just saying, it was, I think what it was that Texas already had they had already passed it, but then the Supreme Court stepped in to look at it, and they decided not to rule against it. They're just going to let it be.
Right.
And a lot of people are saying that's going to start a lot of different states
doing the same thing,
trying to make it, or trying to develop a ruling that they feel is fit for women to follow. And again, just in that alone, we're saying, that's why I'm so happy to get your thoughts on it, because we're telling a woman when you should have a child, or if you should have a child or not. And we're telling you, you don't get to write. Once it passed 6 weeks,
right,
you no longer have a right to decide what to do with your body, regardless if you were raped, or you find out that the child is going to be dealing with a lot of health issues. There's so many
scenarios.
Yeah, as Kurt was saying before we started, you can't try to come up with something to meet all the scenarios, right, to satisfy all of them.
Yeah, well, I think all women are kind of used to this whole scenario
with men
telling us what to do. Yeah. I mean, we do live in America. Everything is, down to how much we get paid less. And it's a comment that I always hear men make, and it was like, women really do got the power. Da, da, da. I'm like, no, the fuck we don't. And I always used to be like, no. I'm like, no, we're in the minority, and I understand that we are. But with this, it was just like when I was reading the article that you sent, I was just like, yeah. Yeah. It only makes sense. And then the only way that we can climb out of it, to me, from my perspective, is if other men stand up for us. If you're the minority, you can't fight for yourself because we don't have that power to fight, right. So our allies, men have to be our allies and stand up and say, no, women have to have the right to say what they want to do with their bodies. But we have a lot of women that's out there protesting. And it just reminds me of the same scenario when, Black Lives Matter, we're out there protesting I don't think that we can protesting is going to be effective unless the allies, the men that's in power, the white people that's in power.
You have to, you have to get that right, support.
Exactly.
For someone to listen.
Right. And it's no support. When you go and you see the protesting, it's just, it's a group of women, and there's like one man here and one.
The men making a decision, they're like, oh, look at them making that noise.
Yeah.
So what? They're like, we've already made a decision, ladies. It's over.
Yeah, basically.
But explain the reason for the 6 weeks.
Because the heartbeat starts at 6 weeks. So they're saying once the heartbeat starts, then you can no longer get an abortion because that's a life. Which, I understand where they're coming from. But if we lived in a beautiful world and every child that was born already had a purpose to do this certain thing in this certain community, I could understand wanting them to have the child, but that's not the case in America.
And also, too, I was thinking about, I know we touched on it very briefly, for the women who, because I can't tell you how many times I've known women where they're like, oh, I just found out I'm pregnant. And they're like, how far along are you? And they're like, oh, I'm 6 weeks. I'm 7 weeks. You're like, because for a lot of women, especially an athlete, they don't have any signs of it.
Right, because usually they're still having their cycles.
Right. So how do they even account? Because let's say they didn't even realize they were pregnant, and now they find out and they're like, oh, I don't want this. Like, this is not part of my plan with my life today.
Right.
And so now men are saying, no,
you gotta
this
have
is
the
about to be
baby.
part of your plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all Texas women just go to another state. That's what I'm thinking. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because it's really nothing. Unless men get on board and protest and assist, I don't see that law.
But to me, all it does is you let me know what you think. But I feel like what it does is it's going to make women go into these back rooms to get it done, and hide the fact that they were ever pregnant. So they're going somewhere where someone is disrupting their insides and doing more damage. Before. Exactly. So I'm like, is it just that that's not even being considered? Like, I wonder if those are things. And I'm like, to make a decision like that, do you have women in the conversation before you make this decision? If you do, what are those women say? Like, I just wonder how they.
Well, yeah, it's just a lot of things that goes. Okay. Like, when I was pregnant, this is when I realized, like, we really don't have power. Women don't have power. Because in my mind, my pregnancy, I would like to be at home and the doctors to come and check on me at home. Or I would like to do things in a non-traditional way. But it was really demonized, or it was like, no, you can't do it. Now it's more accepted. But when I was having a child, no, I had to go
to a facility.
Right. And then when you have the child, I was very adamant. They do this now, but they used to didn't do that. They used to take the baby immediately and didn't give you no contact with your own child. They'll take the baby. The first contact that they get is with
a stranger.
Yeah. And so I was just like, when I had my kids, put my child on my chest, so they can hear my heartbeat, so it could be comforted. That's a tragic experience for the baby when you're coming out and you're birthing into the world. But it was always a fight to try to implement, what I wanted in this society that we live in. It's always a fight. And that's what I realized. Like, first of all, we're not taught anything about our bodies. Yes, we do birth humans, but we're not taught we're not taught anything. So I can remember asking a lot of questions and they looking at me like, oh, you're asking questions. Like, and I'm gonna have to tell you this shit, and I'm like, I need to know what I'm getting into. I don't want to be pushing out this child and I don't know anything what's going on, So I think women have to start asking more questions when things are going on with our bodies. But as far as that whole, the abortion, it's just another cycle of letting us know that we are like second-class citizens.
So you don't think it's gonna, everyone standing up against it in Texas is not going to change anything? They're not
unless men do.
Unless some men start to support it.
Mm-hmm. This is the man's world.
How far along were you each time you knew you were pregnant, or you found out you were pregnant? Were you at the 6 week?
I always so 4 weeks with my first one. And then I knew exactly after, like, with my second one, I knew. Because
is that more than less that people know?
I can't speak. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there's some people that don't know until they're 3 months.
Yeah.
Right.
I
6 weeks is really early.
Yeah. I remember when I used to work on the fire department. We had a call we went to, and a woman, she was complaining about stomach ache and cramps. And she went to the bathroom. She was very heavy set, very large.
She gave birth to a child?
Well, it was dead. So I guess stillborn or whatever.
Oh my God.
But she didn't even know. She was, all of a sudden she said she was cramping real bad and she was bleeding. She didn't know what was going on. So we're there, the paramedics are there, and they're checking her out. And, she was in the bathroom when we all got there, and they're checking on her. They're doing all these, going through ABCs and checking her blood pressure and palpating her stomach to see if there's some tenderness, to see if maybe, something is not right in there. And all of a sudden, it just came out. Right? and it was just little tiny. It looked like a knot of just like blood clots is what it looked like. But it was just big ones, and they were like, "Oh no, they were like, you were pregnant." Like,
Wow.
and she had no clue. I don't know how far along she was, but I'm just like you said, for those situations like that, because they're making it against the law to where, you know,
6 weeks is very early.
Yeah. So like what happens to these individuals who don't find out until later? And then like we were saying, now they're going to cross state lines and go somewhere and get it done and come back. So my thing is, what is the goal here? Like, what are you really benefiting out of this? If people can still go across state lines or go,
it has to be a goal. It's got to be a moneymaker
and get it done.
It's something tied to it. I'm really thinking it's got to be something tied to it. Why are you so adamant of having all these babies that are going to be born into a rough environment or born with disabilities, or you know what I'm saying? So what are you trying to accomplish? But in my mind, medical, you know, they're gonna that's gonna make the medical industry money. You know, you're gonna make you're
going through the full cycle of having a child. So you're going and having your appointments.
You got children that's going to be in the foster system.
Yeah,
and we already know how that go with penitentiary.
Yeah,
you know,
the percentage is higher with them.
Exactly. And then they can use those stats to get some money from the bank to fund the next prison system. You know what I'm saying? So I think it all ties in. I really do.
It is. Because then you think about with penitentiary, the average inmate is 30,000+. So they make over 300 and some change a year, like 360,000 a year off of one inmate.
That's so sad. If that's the case, that is just...
And that, but so now sad. Talking about it out loud, that
makes sense.
This is the capitalist country, so more than likely that's what they're looking at. So it's business. So they're looking at it as a business, and they're like, look, this is how much money.
Products.
Yeah, this is how much money we're about to lose if we allow these people to just have abortions like they've been having. They probably looked at it over the last 30 years or so, and determined this is how much money we've been losing.
Yeah,
that is just crazy because when you think about we're wanting to control, and maybe that's why they want to control ending life, but they could care less about bringing life into the world
because it's going to make them money,
right? So they don't ever get in the way because we've talked about maybe there needs to be standards on who should have a child, based off of mental capacity, based off of maturity and all these different things. They can care less about that. But as soon as you talk about
abortion,
I want to decide not to have a child. They're like, wait. Because now that child is going to give us so many millions or billions. And if it's depending on the gender, I'm sure they have it set up to where males generate this amount of money, females generate this amount of money. In a lifespan, the average lifespan of a woman is 70-something years and a man is 60-something years. So they already got that planned. That's just, and that's where we are. But they said that's their Social Security number and all of that. That's already a credit on us to determine what we're going to be worth, and they use that.
For collateral.
Yeah. So
it's a whole game for them, and we are the pawns in their game. So that's why I was saying that it would not change unless men say they do something about it, because this is the world that you guys created. Well, not you guys, but you know what I'm saying. The males created. So it's in order to implement a new world, it's going to have to come from the ones that have the power.
Yeah, because I agree. That 6 weeks just seems so
early. Yeah. They don't want you to have an abortion.
Yeah. Especially and I'm just thinking about when a woman, sometimes, a woman period skips. So that woman is like, it's this happens before. Right. Especially like I know my friends who are athletes. They say theirs always like is rare. Sometimes they don't even have one. During the whole time that they're professionally competing, they don't have one until they stop competing like that.
Yeah. I experienced
So
that in high school. I was a runner and I was always, athletic, and I would go certain months without having my cycle. Or I would just have one day come on and then
and that was
not.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I was to get pregnant in the midst of that time, I wouldn't have known if I was, because I would have thought, oh, this is normal. I'm not having a cycle. Yeah. But now matter of fact, you can't even find out if you're pregnant unless you're 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like,
What's the deal with 2 weeks?
the hormone levels change.
Yeah. Okay.
Within the 2 weeks of you first getting pregnant. So then they, test. That's why they test your urine, because they are looking for the hormone levels to change. Yeah, and that's how you find out. But it takes 2 weeks. So then you got 4 more weeks in between. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
And who thinks they're pregnant 2 weeks?
2 weeks in. Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's just it's what they do. I think the decision was split 5-4.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, who's making the decision? Was it women that was on
it's the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court. There's like 2 women on the Supreme Court.
It's not me. I want to say 1 or 2. I know it's 1 on there. I don't know how many.
Yeah. And then I was thinking that too. I was like, this should be a decision for all women. Bump the Supreme Court, just like get the women together and ask them.
It should be one of those where you you have a vote with the country, like you do for these quote unquote politicians, which, I'm one who's, I'm against all these politicians, because for one, you don't even see, I don't want to get too far off topic, but you don't even see these politicians until it's election time. And then they come out, then all of a sudden
they doing shit.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden all these different topics become mainstream, and they want to talk about this and talk about that. Where were you 3 years ago? You ain't had shit to say about the community. You ain't had shit to say about this mistreatment. You ain't had shit to say about equality or nothing. And now, because your term is about to be up,
let me show my face.
And I'm talking about from city council members to local aldermen, to the mayor, to the governor, to a Senate, Congress, all of them. They don't have shit to say. They just sit up in their little rooms and take care of their business. They make sure they pass laws for their businesses.
Oh, and their friends.
Yeah, and their friends. But for the rest of the community, they could care less. But then when it gets close to that time, this election year, it's almost like
they're going to churches and everything.
All of that. I ain't never seen you in a church. Now, you probably never seen me in a church either, but
you saying though.
Exactly. Now all of a sudden you in here and you catching the Holy Ghost and you up there with the choir and everything.
You're passing some money to the preacher.
But yeah.
Persuade your congregation to vote for me.
Yeah, but it's definitely.
So it's a game.
I think you definitely touched on it, saying that, it's the money. With the hospitals, the physicians, the pharmacies, all of them are collecting money. So now you're about to disrupt that. Because one day you complaining about how fast population is growing across the country. Here's a way that you can help. Here's a way you can help with population without doing something sneaky. They
complain about population when the population in a certain age bracket is too many of them.
Yeah.
Like the older you get, the more they don't need you.
We got too many elderly people. We got too many people on Social Security.
Exactly.
That's why they were talking about Social Security is running out.
Exactly.
Because people are living longer. So they was like, all right, let's get rid of them.
Yeah. COVID. Yes. Like my son call it, is the baby boomer remover. No,
it's just funny though that, it's always something going on, and we just have to be able to manage and make adjustments within it, because we're not that 1% of that 1%.
Right. Yeah. So you just got to make the best of it. But I like to kind of not be of that world. I see it going on, but I don't want to be tied to it. It's almost like what Kurt was saying earlier, when he was like, he didn't want to give into certain scenarios, like by being elderly or, and having, because where the money is going to. But I'm the same way. I look at certain things and say, I don't want to be a part of that. So I'm going to try my best to have my own little world, Tiffany's world, and just make it a happy place over here. You know, peep in sometime, be like, I ain't a part of that shit.
That's what it's funny. Today we was having a discussion, and I said literally, this is my exact words. I said, work is a part of my life. It is not my life.
Yeah.
You know, and because we were talking about our VP, and at one time that was the goal. Like I wanted to get to the VP status or even higher, but they work nonstop. When they're off, when they're on PTO,
they're still at work.
They're still at work. So for everyone, PTO paid time off, just in case anyone didn't know. So when they're on PTO, they're still working. They're still calling in to meetings. They're still being called by other people for decisions that have to be made. They're still constantly sending emails, you know, responding to this email, responding to this situation. So they're on vacation with family, but they're still working. So it's like you never get a break. And is it worth it just to make that 400 or 500K a year, but you're not enjoying it at all? So, and that's where, and one of the things, you know, Kurt was talking about too, with that, you get to a point to where you start to realize, for some, again, it's not to judge anyone who chases money, but for some of us, it's like, I want to do more with, you know, my time than chasing after that money.
Yeah. We put a lot of time into that too.
Because all these material things are just material.
Yeah.
You don't take them with you.
No.
They don't go nowhere. They go away. They disappear.
Yeah.
So someone said, I don't know who, but they're like, you come in alone, you go out alone. It's so true.
Yeah, I feel you, because I don't know if we just was programmed to think that way, but I remember at a certain point, I wanted to work my way up a little bit. You know, I had that feeling. I didn't, but it don't feel like, I'm like, why would I have that? It was like, that's so not a part of me.
It is programming. When you think about it, it's like you graduate high school, you go to college, and it's encouraged in college to get the education to go work for someone.
Yeah.
So that's what's being pushed for you to go work for someone, because we need a workforce to support these organizations that are providing jobs. Well, if everyone was entrepreneurs and doing their own thing, or if a large majority was doing that, or even let's say 50% were doing that, then you wouldn't have, you know, these organizations as large as they was. It would be more competitive. Yeah. Like even when I think, I'm not going to say who I work for, but my company, they have so many acquisitions that they do where they're, you know, taking over these other companies, and not in a way that they are running a company, but in a way that now that company falls under them.
So it won't be competition.
Right. And they're just eating them up. Eating them up. And it looks good. You know, when you're a small company and you have this large organization that comes to you and says, hey, you know, we'll take over, you know, your organization. You just have to, you know, submit to our policies and adhere to this and these protocols and blah, blah, blah. But we're taking the expense, we're taking on the legal stuff, like all of that, you know, they're taking on. So it's like, oh, so you're just collecting that money, but it's becoming a monopoly. Yeah. And it's supposed to, you know, in this country, we're supposed to stay away from being able to monopolize a market. Right. But the government allows it in certain situations. The same that they allow it in power. Like there's only a certain amount of power companies in every state that operate, and they do that on purpose, but then the government gets a kickback as well. It's just, I remember I wrote a paper on it when I was in college. It was just, it blew my mind, the way it's done. But anyway, I don't want to get too far out. All that.
Because it's a part of the world. It's a part of the life that we're living. And
as you learn more about certain things, you get an idea of the things that are like the veil is being lifted.
Exactly.
And, like,
and once it's lifted, you can't put it back down. You see it,
it's
for
almost
what
like it's
it is.
removed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh, now I'm aware of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
and then
like,
you see other things,
and you make those connections.
Yeah.
It's like a child. When you're young, your parents can get away with saying certain things and doing things because you're not unaware. Then you get older and you like, oh, that's why they did this or they did, like, you start to realize things and you're like, oh, man, what the hell?
Yeah. They were smoking weed the whole time.
I know. Yeah.
That's what that smell was. I used to smell coming from their bedroom door.
I know. They talking about that. We were just burning incense.
Right. But that's what the veil is lifted. But we do want to talk about Elijah McClain as well, because that was some news that happened over this week too.
And that was yesterday or the day before?
Day before yesterday.
Yeah, they charged everybody with that.
That's 32 counts?
32 counts. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It always amazed me how when it comes to things of this nature, when it's dealing with race, especially when it involves a Black individual, whether it's a Black male or a Black female, how long it takes.
Yes, 2
before
years.
Charges.
I forgot all about this case.
I did too. And I feel bad saying it, but
I did.
What's his name? The case where
George Floyd.
Yeah. But what was the guy's name? Chavez.
Okay.
So the Chavez, so the George Floyd case, that was probably the quickest I've seen someone get charged, and it was only because it was polarized, all across, and not just in this country but other countries, and that's the first time I ever seen something move that quickly,
right?
And they made charges, and there was pushback with that, but it was just so much of a demand from every state that they were like, okay. All these other ones that happened, they didn't have the push that the Floyd case had for whatever reason. And it's just one of those things like, why does it have to take so long? It's almost like they want you to forget about it.
Yeah.
So they can just emotion is not there.
I just think because they just want to throw something at it, if they forget, then we could just throw something little at it. But what was sad about the case was, first of all, it was not talked about for a while. Nobody even knew about it. Somebody came up with it. I can't remember how the story went. It was like, because George Floyd, his case was all in the news, and then the parents was like, okay, but what about my child, But Elijah, when they were showing the footage of him in the gas station, right? He reminds me of my special needs students when I was doing special needs, right? Okay, so he's awkward. You could tell he was different, So he had the mask on because he stayed cold all the time because he was anemic. So this is the reason why he had that whole mask on. But when he was getting ready to leave out of the store, they show the footage. He bows to like everyone that's around him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought that was just so innocent. Like, he just did a whole bow, like, peace bow, and then he walks out of the store and he's walking down the street. And of course they get a phone call from an individual that said it's a suspicious person with a ski mask on. That's all that was it. That took his life away. That one statement took his life away. And then when the police officers pulled up on him, they were so hostile. It was like automatically they wanted to do an arrest. They was not there to protect the rights of this human being or this citizen situation. Right. They was like looking to arrest someone because they didn't get out the car and say, excuse me, sir, is everything okay?
But we have to be clear why is, if it was, as I say, of a lighter persuasion, then they would have been like, excuse me, we had a call about this. Like they almost tell you everything that's going on. And then, but if you are Black, then they're like, it's like you're almost already a suspect for something without even having a conversation to determine
Yeah,
you know, if you're even part of it. And it's, I know we talked about this shows way back about just the difference in it and the way the police are. And I know for me, when I was in Chicago, it was terrible with the cops. When I came here, it was so much better. And people always say to me, in the South, I'm like, at least in where I am, the police I've dealt with have been good. And I'm not doing that to try to get any type of brown nosing with the police here. But I will say the white cops I dealt with have always been professional.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll put it just like that. They've been professional. I might not have agreed with why they're pulling me over, but they've been professional, not disrespectful to me at all. Every black cop that I've dealt with here has been extremely disrespectful every single time to me. I've never dealt with, and I'm not going to say never, but the majority, I would say probably 75% of the black cops I dealt with.
But that's colorism right there.
Yeah, and it's not like I've been, I've been arrested a lot, because I know it probably sounds like I deal with the cops all the time.
But that's a whole thing here in the South too. It's
but it's like you get pulled over and they just nasty with you. I remember when I first moved here, and I was a senior in high school, and we were drinking, underage drinking. You know, I'm not gonna say all kids do it, but a good majority of us do it. A police officer, and I remember I'll tell the story last time we was talking about it. It was a white cop, older guy, comes over, and he just walks over. He walked over so quietly, we didn't even notice the police officer. And all of a sudden, he's there, and he's talking, very calm and cool. And he's like, and we dropped the bottles. We were drinking 40s. We dropped the bottles, and they rolled down. And that just made it worse. Ding. And he was just like, he's talking with us, and he was saying, hey, you know, I did the same thing. Like, he's talking just like a normal individual or an adult saying, hey, kid, like, you know, I did it too. But he was like, which one of you is the most sober? And I was like, I'm pretty sober. He was like, can you drive? He was like, can I trust you to drive everybody? He was like, yeah. He was like, all right, but you got to take all the beer, because we had a case of beer in the back. He was like, you got to get rid of all of that.
Wow.
He made us throw it all away, and he let us go. He could have approached us so differently.
Yeah.
And then I remember getting pulled over by a black police officer because the tags were expired. I was driving my friend's car. He gets out the car. I reach to get my wallet. He pulls his gun, and he's all in the car with his gun all on me and everything. And I'm like, what? I have an attitude. I'm like, you want to see my license, right? And he's like, put your hands on the wheel, reach with your hand closest to me across your back. And it is so awkward to reach with this hand across my body into my back pocket to get my wallet while keeping his hand on the steering wheel. And I was like, what the hell? He kept his gun on me the whole time. It was the craziest thing. It has been other situations where they talk nasty. The black car, they just talking shit for no reason. It's almost like they trying to apply their authority. They want you to know that they're, you know, and it's almost like you only have authority because of the position that you hold. You're in.
And they're not, officer. You know, the police are not educated on how to have conversations. I mean, you know, it's just like sometimes you have police officers that get in that position for the power.
A lot of them do. You know, they always say it's that weak, and not all of them, but a lot of people who were either picked on or were just weak, this is their way now to have some power. Or maybe they don't have any power at home. I know a lot of men who wives run everything. They talk to them a certain way, and they're just quiet and docile at home. But then they get into their jobs, and they're just mean and aggressive and like a tyrant. And it's because, you know, that's because they can be that way at work. So because they have a level of authority, and they abuse it, whether it's in corporate or whether it's in any position they're in that they have. I always say a title over their name. So that title over your name makes you think you could just do and say whatever.
But that's what it was weird when, you know, if you look at the footage of the police officer approaching Elijah, it was like he was just
lost. He was like, what?
Yeah,
he was trying to figure it out, like what's going on.
Right.
As any person would, like, Tiffany, if you were walking down the street and a police officer pull up on you,
what?
Yeah.
What did I? Like, that's how he was.
And you trying to ask questions, they like, shut up. Like, yelling and screaming, and you trying to figure out, and you taking out, like, I know me, a lot of times I have my ear sets in. I'm listening to music, especially if I just finished running or something. And if a police officer pulls up on me, I'm going to be, a little taken for something. Like, what's going on? Like,
gotta take it.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait a minute. And let's say me doing this gets him excited, like you just,
put your hands where
you never know. Yeah, like you got a weapon in your ear.
You don't ever know. And okay, so once they had physical contact with Elijah, he's repeating, hey, I'm an introvert. Hey, and these are the things that you're taught when you have special needs. That's why I was like, I wonder if he was special needs. Like you're supposed to eat. Sometimes if you're special needs, you have a card. Yeah. So he was like, I'm an introvert. I'm different. And he was calm when he was using the language properly. But at the same time, your body is going to be defensive. Like he was like trying to, that little bit of tussle. But it was just no need to give him 500 milligrams of ketamine. Yeah. Like, and then when the paramedics came, I don't know. It was just all could have been avoided, because I'm just like, why would the paramedics listen to the police officers? The police officer was like, give him something to calm down, give him something to calm down. As a paramedic, do you have to do exactly what the police officer is telling you to do? Or can you evaluate the situation first?
The police clear the scene, and the paramedics don't come on the scene until the police clear it. So if there was a threat, they wouldn't even be able to come over and assist.
Oh, that's why he was charged. That's why the paramedics was charged.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be there's no threat. So when I was working for the city on the fire department, the paramedics, we were all, if there was a threat, police go in first and they secure the scene.
Right.
And then we come in behind them because we don't have guns. We don't have a weapon or protection. So we don't go in first. They go in and secure it. So for the paramedics to be able to come right on in is because the police said, oh, he's fine. But again, like you were saying, it's natural for any human. Even if you don't have to be someone who's a fighter or whatever, but if someone grabs and stuff on you, it's natural to be like, like, come off me. So that's just part of it. It's one of those things where that's where the police officer has to have the mindset to know they're the one that has the control of the situation and they can de-escalate. It's the same way like a teacher in the classroom. You are in control. You run that classroom. You can de-escalate a situation with a student easily if you want to, or you can get things escalated. And now you got a teacher and a student fighting in the classroom. The difference is police officers, they have a weapon that can take your life in a second. And it's like, it's okay. Somebody said, I can't remember who said this, but they were like, how can I protect myself when my threat is the color of my skin? I can't do nothing about that. That's the threat. So it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter how I'm dressed.
What he said.
It doesn't matter how articulate I am, well groomed I am, when it's the color of the skin that threatens you.
Yeah.
So I can say all the right things under the sun. I can speak to what my rights are. I can say, hey, my hands are up. I don't have any weapon. I can say all of that. But if you still feel threatened just because of the color of the skin, then what can I do?
Right.
Are we all supposed to bleach our skin?
Yeah, because you could tell the officer was like kind of afraid at the same time, and that's why he was acting the way he was.
And it's funny to me, like what are you afraid of?
You got all the weapons.
Yeah, you have a gun, you have a taser.
Because they're not taught properly.
And they're not.
They're not taught properly.
We talked about this before. And other countries, and Kurt, I don't know if you're aware, so many other countries, here in the United States, on average, it's between 3 to 6 months of training to be a police officer. And you only have to be 21 years of age.
Right.
21. I don't know any 21-year-old who is able to handle, those type of high stress level situations without them jumping into it and being involved because they're kids and they haven't experienced enough with life to understand how to de-escalate things. And so now you have improper training, you have kids, and now other countries, what I found out, we talked about this over a year ago, you have other countries, and I wish I could remember the exact ones, where some do a year training, some do 2 years of training before they actually become an officer and they go out into the streets. And then in Europe, there are certain areas in Europe where, and it might be all of Europe, where police officers, it's only a certain department in their police, in the police departments that carry guns. The ones who are on the streets, they don't carry guns. But if a threat comes about, then they call in those officers to have guns. So yeah, the rest, they have tasers and stuff, but they don't have a gun.
I like that.
So, and it's supposed to be the ones who come to non-threatening calls and everything. Like if it's an argument between people, you shouldn't be coming with the gun, because, and that's just part of human nature. Your stress level is up and you just reach for it. Well, if you don't have that gun to reach for, it's almost like you don't have no choice but to work it out, because if you feel threatened by me, even if I'm saying all the right things, but you feel threatened because my height, my size, you're a little person. So you just think you need your gun to protect yourself just in case I go berserk or whatever. But if you don't have that gun to reach for, you're going to talk to me completely different. You're going to be like, wait a minute. Hey, let's talk about this, because you don't have that power on your hip to use. It's the same way when I see people walking around who have their ownership to carry a concealed weapon, and they go into restaurant. I'm like, you go into a restaurant to eat. What do you need a gun for on your hip? But people do it. Yeah. And I wonder how many of them are quick if they get into an argument with somebody. That gun. How quick are they to grab their weapon? But if they didn't have the weapon, how many of them would just back away and be like, all right, man, I'm done. You got it. I don't want to get into it. But now they know they have that gun on them, and now they continue to have the talk, and the argument continues to escalate more and more, because they know they can always reach for that. So now, especially for men, that Bravo comes out and we want to show that we're the alpha male, and it's like, what you say? Now say something. Well, you don't have that, you a punk. Yeah. For those punks who don't have that weapon, now they back up. They're like, okay. And they come on, baby, let's go. Let's go.
But, you can't win this fight, baby. But in the case with Elijah, he passed away from the ketamine. Right. Yeah. It wasn't a gun involved, but he did pass out. He passed out first, and then when he came to, he told them again, I'm a different person. I'm an introvert. Like, he was still telling them. And then they gave him that shot of ketamine, and it was over, because he had heart condition. He had a heart condition already. And then they was like, because his heart rate was so high, and then mixed with the ketamine, that's what put him in the coma. I think it was the coma.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm happy that they did charge him. I'm hoping that.
I just wish I just wish it would have went a different way. It could have went. Because he was great. He was like a massage therapist, and then he played violin, and he would go to the shelters and play violin for the animals. I'm just like, this was a productive human that we needed, on the planet. But then just by one phone call,
it was gone.
It's gone.
It began, it goes back to, that training, that lack of training. Yeah. And that age. To me, the age is purposely done. The same way the military allows you to be 18 years old to come in. Yeah. Because the younger you are, the easier I can manipulate you and get your mindset to what I want it to be. So when you're young like that, everything is exciting. You seeing people doing certain, you're like, oh, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of this group. Let me learn from this person. Let me pick up. And that's what the police department, they're programming you, just like the military. It's like they're programming you to be a certain way, because why pick children to handle adult situations.
That's so true.
That's what you do. Why pick children to go out and fight a war?
Right.
When you have all these adults that are more than capable of doing it, men 25 and older who are more capable than do it, but you rather get an 18-year-old straight out of high school who has no clue, first time ever holding a weapon.
They could brainwash him.
Yeah, and now you want him to go ahead and so it's all about that. I can control, because the older you are, the more you've experienced life, so the more you question things.
Exactly.
So if someone says to you, I want you to do this, you're like, why? Why am I doing that? That doesn't feel right. That person, no, they're not doing nothing wrong. So why would I handle them this way? But if you're 18 or 21, you're like, okay, you're just doing as you're told, because you're still that child that's doing as they're told. Just like if they're at home and their parent tells them to do something. So to me, that's why they keep those young ages, and it's ridiculous. Even fire departments do 18. You 18-year-old. Why? Why are we getting these little kids and putting them in situations that are not well for them? And it's I've said it. I'll probably say it almost every show. But the mind doesn't fully develop to the age of 27. And you got kids out here who are not fully developed mentally.
Right.
Just because they have the physical strength, mentally, they are a disaster waiting to happen. And they are struggling. And you putting them in situations where they have to save a life or take a life.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it
well,
is.
Hopefully justice, I don't even know if I should say justice. I mean, like, because it's just like justice would have been, he would be still alive,
But,
so.
And they have to change it. The police is set up so tight to where it takes so much to not just charge an officer, but prosecute them to where they actually have to serve time for. The other thing they need to do is, if you do a settlement, if you have a civil case with the police department, you get the settlement, it comes out of tax money.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're paying yourself back for that. It doesn't come out of their money at all. I know that was one of the things they talked about. Part of the defunding, part of that was taking that money from them when they have a civil case with all these, because then that would almost force them to be like, all right, we need to get our shit together. Our funds are low. This year we don't have enough money for all these, for 200 rifles instead of 1,000 rifles, or whatever they do. Or this year we only have enough money for this amount of raises or whatever. So if you start hitting them, and that's money always creates or disrupts things to where change is possible. When you don't get into the pockets of people, then they're like, whatever, like, I'm still making money. Because now a police officer gets charged with killing someone, and he's paid as he's off all that time.
That is,
they get paid for that time because the police department has unions. So part of that is within that, that unions have fought for that.
Yeah.
So they, and it's
just
crazy.
It's a lot need to be revamped, and who knows, it may never get fixed. But
it takes time. Change doesn't happen overnight.
Exactly. It's
I know
better.
You have to be,
I think we're getting better, but it's just like we're baby steps.
I don't know, because when you look at it, was the same thing in the 50s
a lot of
and
good
60s. It was the same thing.
Yeah, but we have more opportunity.
Is because of cell phones now.
Things are being highlighted,
right? All over the place. So now it's like you have to take witness to it. You can't ignore it, or you can't just put it over and say it's just these communities that are having issues, and keep it blocked from the rest of the world. Now. Everybody, as soon as a police officer walks up, people turn their phones on. They're like, dude, go ahead. Yeah. And so, and some police, I do too. Yeah. Because it makes you, as a police officer, now it's like you have to follow.
Accountability.
You have to have accountability now. You have to follow, the rules that are set up, because it says protect and serve the community.
That's why I was like, the police supposed to protect us, but it's the community fears the police. It's just like, how are we going to do that? But the foundation of policing is corrupt anyway, you know.
When it was started.
When it was started.
When you go back to it, back in the days.
So it would have to be changed. The infrastructure needs to be changed a bit.
Changed.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'll say it's difficult.
Yeah. And the relationship between police and the people in the community, it just needs to change.
It does.
This
you
is
have
a good
to treat
segue.
people. Yeah.
Go ahead.
A segue into
friendship.
Okay. Well, let's just jump right into it then.
Okay.
Friendship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You start off because you had some things to say.
Yeah. So I'm learning how to have friends because I had chose early in my adult life. It was just too much to bring people into my world because I was a mom, I was married, and I was just not in that headspace to be somebody's friend. Besides when I was in high school, that was easy, you know, and then in college, that was easy. And then it was like, really, I was hanging around my family more so in those days anyway. And so now I'm learning that in friendship, I should ask the question.
Okay.
In friendship, should you have to compromise when you're in a friendship type of situation?
My opinion, no. If it's a true friend, they honor you for who you are.
Okay.
And those differences should be valued. Okay. Because we're not the same.
We're not the same. Yeah. And so that's where, you know, I'm realizing that sometimes it's okay to let things go because, you know, I don't want to compromise, you know, but if I'm feeling like the friendship cannot move forward without me compromising, then I guess you just let the friendship go. Or was it even a friendship in the beginning?
That's what I was going to say. Was it even a friendship? Is it just an associate?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with just having associates. To me, there's a true there's a differentiation between friendship and associates. And associates are just people you hang out with every now and then.
Yeah.
You don't really talk to them. But you know, when you all get together, it's fun times.
Yeah.
Or it might be an argument. Who knows? But then you don't see them again. A friend is someone who, you know, you talk with on some type of consistency. You know, you get together, you know, for just little things at each other's house. It doesn't have to be an event for you to see this person.
Right.
But again, to me, with the friendship, if they don't appreciate you for who you are, if they're judging you, then how can you be a friend of mine? If there's judgment involved.
Yeah.
Because then you're not valuing me for me being who I am. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with critiquing me. If you see me doing something and you're like, I don't like when, you know, you acting like this in this situation. And it's like, if you're a friend, I'm like, oh, you know, what am I doing within this situation here that makes you feel like that? And it's a discussion, and a true friend will point those things out
because you want to see each other get better.
Exactly, it's part of your growth.
Right.
An associate will not do that. An associate will let you fall and destroy everything, and then afterwards, that associate afterwards or that non-friend afterwards would be like, I knew something like that was going to happen, but they didn't say nothing. They just watched it. You know, they were witness to it all. And then they criticize you afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I'm learning, you know, I realize that you do need people in your life. You know, I can't exclude everybody.
Maybe, you know.
It feels good, you know, but then you have to pick and choose who you allow in your space. And then you can't have a lot of people in your space that you consider friends. You know, you get what I'm saying? So, you know, I'm learning how to deal with that. But yeah, I just really had that question about friendship. And last night I was playing pool, right?
Okay.
And this is a totally different subject, people. I have to bring this up because it was a heated conversation. So we was talking, this guy we was talking about marriage, and then the guy was like, "Yeah, I would like to have multiple marriages, right?" And I was like, "Oh," I said, that's cool, you know." And then I just wanted to see what he was gonna say. I just be playing games and shit sometimes.
So you want more than one wife, just multiple wives?
Yeah, yeah. And so I was like, "Yeah, I want multiple husbands," and he was like he looked at me in this certain type of way, which I wanted to see his reaction when I said it, you know, to see what type of dude he was. But so he like did like that. He was like, y'all, why would you want that? So you want men to run trains on you? I was like, no. I was like, I can see them in different ways, but if you're having multiple wives, why can't I have multiple husbands? And he was like, because it's meant to be that way. It was prophesied. It was prophesied in the Bible. I found out he was an Israelite later, but he was prophesied in the Bible that it's gonna be 7 women to 1 man, right? And then I was like, so you saying that's the prophecy, that's why you need to have multiple wives, that's what you're saying, right? He was like, yeah. I was like, do you know where the history of that came from? Seven women to 1 man. Do you know where that came from? And he was like, it was the prophecy. Do you not believe in the words of the Bible? I was like, I said, the history of the Bible, I was like, it's fine. I'm just asking you, do you know where it came from? Right. And then he was just like, oh, you gonna school me? I was like, no, I can if you allow me to talk. Cause it was just like, every time I would say something, he would just like, you know? Yeah. So I'm like with my pool stick, like we playing pool. I won. But anyway, so I'm like with my pool stick, and I was like, I would tell you if you would listen. You have to calm down. I would tell you if you listen. And so he started listening. I was like, when men was going to war all the time in that day. So the men would go off to war and they would get killed. Mm-hmm. So that's how I ended up being more women than men. And then I told him in the during the Great Depression period, that was when a lot of men went off to war and they didn't come home. They died young. And so it was a lot of women. And then that's when the women started going to work in the manufacturing industry and things like that. And I was like, and that time it was still more women than men. I said, now pick your phone up and Google what's the percentage of men and women in America? He was like, oh, you mean to tell me? I'm like, just Google it. Just Google it. Just Google it, please. Because the whole point is the reason why you're saying that you feel like you deserve, multiple wives is because it's 7 women to a man. So that's your reason and that's your base. So I need you to Google it. And so it's like 54% women, and then it's like a 3% difference here. You know what I'm saying? So like I was telling him, I was like, so if you feel the need, you can have it, then a woman can have it. But it was just a double standard that I was trying to kind of point out to him. Like I don't want multiple husbands. I mean, but I was just wanting to see,
It sounded like he found that one thing in there, or someone told him about it.
And he was just like...
someone who probably had the knowledge talked to him or just mentioned it, and then he's been running with it.
Yeah, I told him to go tell all his people. No, he's an Israelite, because he was like, he had to go speak on the corner, I think today. Yeah. But I told him to go tell all his people where that came from, because y'all must don't know. Talking about it's a prophecy. No, it's not. It was like, no. He was talking about that day and time. It was really 7 men to 1 woman. It was a real thing. Yeah. So
7 women to 1 man.
Okay, I said it wrong.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for correcting me, Bro Bill.
That's what men do.
That's what men do. Yeah.
We correct women.
Yeah, and I was correcting his ass last night. And it was so fun. It was so fun just doing it. But I wanted to bring that up because I think a lot of men still think about that, because that's what's been taught to them like so much, and nobody had thought to let me research it. Let's see if this is why was this reason.
But that's what, just speaking in general, that's what a lot of things with people, they are fed information and no one does research. Mm-hmm. I always say, look at the ingredients, like dig into it and see
where did this come from.
Yeah, like this statement or this quote unquote prophecy. That's always funny to me. You talking about this is prophesied and it was written by a man or men, who are no greater. It's all, they're just as you are. They just, put their words down and got people to follow their words, but they use, You know,
Well, and I'm not even against the whole prophecy thing. Like, if somebody say this is going to happen in 2023 and it happened, then that shows that that was a prophecy that was said. But my whole thing was, it didn't say this is the words of a prophet. It didn't say that in that scripture. It was just literally just giving you information about that date and time.
He said because it was in there though.
It was in there, and he was like reading around it and saying, because he's talking, this passage is talking about the world that we live in now. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, but they always, it's so funny to me. Every group says that. Every decade, every century, they always say, or you can say every year, whenever they are making a point, they're like, it's talking about today. You know, they were saying that 100 years ago. Right here, it's talking about today. It's always talking about today.
If it ain't gave no date, you know what I'm saying? Just like, why would you think it's talking about today? And especially when everything under the sun is reoccurring. It's always.
But that's so. What is? I can't remember, and I think it's Oscar Wilde, or it's someone else. So I might be wrong. So the quote is, history doesn't repeat, man repeats. And it is like, history is just what it is. It's done. It's over with. Man continues to the same behavior over and over because maybe it's a benefit or they just like doing this shit. So they keep doing it. And then, then we use this phrase, well, history repeats itself. No. History is just what it is. It's done. It's you move forward. It's gone on, but you keep that same behavior because it has to be some type of benefit to it. There has to be some type of liking there for you to continue to do something over and over. History is man. Man repeats itself. History is just what it is. It's over. It's in the past. So
I'm glad I got to share that with you guys, because it really bugs me, but I know, like I said before, that it is a man's world, and the not quotes, but the way we have been programmed, it does benefit the man more, and that it should be, because, when you create a world, you're going to want it to benefit you in the world that you created, but I think it's time for people to kind of open their eyes just a little bit more, and then realize, like, hey, we're here, women, we're here, we deserve some type of something. We birthing everybody and shit, but until that happens,
some people bring up the point that when you measure the benefits of today that women have compared to past centuries, women have it way better now. So it's like, why not appreciate how good things are now and continue, to grow? But let's not act like things are not better. But
it's way better. I don't want to act like it's not better. I appreciate, where women are. It was a time we couldn't vote, and so.
But my point was going to be.
Okay, let's get to that.
Well, but people who are like I was working on this, and you jumped in.
Okay. But, let the man speak.
It's almost like the one in control. They always do that. They always say, "Oh, well, let's point out how things improve." Where things have always been good for you, so you're continuing to live this lifestyle you've been wanting to live, and not having to deal with these issues. And now, because things are improved, like, look, things are better. It's almost like giving you a bone. Say, here, take that, go over in the corner, play with that. I gave you a bone. Like, that should be enough for right now. And next year, I'll give you a car with some peanut butter in it. And
some peanut butter in it.
No, but it's this dude is like, but I was saying it just to say, that's it's always said. Like, even when you think about different groups, a race of people, they're like, oh, well, things are better now. And it's their way of disregarding the past, disregarding the conditions that created certain things to benefit groups of people, and then say, it's almost like just deal with it and accept things and look at how better it is now. And it's like, but the only way you can improve and make change is to identify and acknowledge, you know, things that have gone on. Yeah, but that's difficult because to do that, you have to admit that you were wrong. And who wants to admit, you know,
that they're wrong? I mean, I don't mind admitting that I'm wrong.
I don't mind admitting wrong,
Yeah,
but I understand.
I think we're in a place where people
understanding of it. Even when you think about the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, when they gave reparations to the Japanese from World War II, when they were in prison camps and stuff, they gave them money here. For people who don't know, we talked about it a long time ago, but in the 90s, they gave out so much money.
Reagan, right?
Yeah, under Reagan. Yeah, so in the 80s, the late 80s, under Reagan, they gave out money to them all. And it went all the way through. Well, Reagan made the decision, but it ran all the way through until, I think, early 90s or mid 90s. And but that's because that was a little different. It was like, to me, the way I look at it, they were willing to do that. The government was on time. I was willing to do that because that was war. That wasn't just them demoralizing and beating down a race of people. That was in the midst of war. And that's kind of like, oh, you know, okay. It's almost like that's accepted.
So they gave them reparation. But wasn't it war on us? I mean, when you're being held captive and...
Yeah, but they don't identify it, like, they don't recognize that.
Okay.
So...
Yeah. I'm running the board here while you guys talk, so it's okay whatever happens outside of here. So
okay.
This is like the reparations of a white guy.
Yeah, so everybody to hear, so Kurt's here because he's a white man and he's our engineer running everything.
Yeah, that's the reparation topic. It's kind of, I don't know what to think anymore about it. It's just like right now I'm in a great place. I would like reparations for my ancestors, but at the same time, do I expect it? Not really. I'm just saying. No, I don't.
I don't expect it, but I just know, like, when you look at the history of it and how the United States became, you know, had a seat at the table so fast, you know, at a rapid rate compared to other nations, it was because of, you know,
free labor.
Because we were sending cotton, producing cotton for the world. It was going over into Europe, and then Europe was taking the cotton. They was doing all types of stuff with it, from clothing to towels and everything. And then it was going all over the world. And so everybody was making money off of it, but it was all coming from here. And that's what kind of started when you think about the war between the North and South. It was more about the money. The South was looking at the fact that they were like, you know what, we no longer need to use they had these I can't think of the name of them, but these manufacturing companies in the North. So all the cotton was getting picked in the South, and it was all being driven up there, and then they were doing what they had to do with it. And there was meals, these meals and stuff. And I was like, we don't need them. Like,
why didn't? Because the South started producing their own meals. Okay. I was like, and so then the North got mad.
Because they're not making that money no more. The South is making all the money.
So they're looking at the South like, you got free labor, and now you got the meals. Okay.
On top of other things. You know, a lot of other stuff going on too. But part of it, to me, in my mind, a large part of it was the money. Right. It helped because then it disrupted things for that minute. But then you had the Compromise of 1877. We don't get into
I know the whole history lesson. We did that show before, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
But so
we're gonna wrap it on up.
We are gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, it's a good show. We talked about Elijah McClain. We talked about the abortion,
which is still just crazy. The fact that they're gonna tell a woman what to do, regardless of the situation. It's all about the weeks, and that's it. And just so everyone knows, Texas is 6 weeks, Mississippi is 15 weeks. Everywhere else, I think it's 14 5
I don't know.
months. Or
I could look it up, but I really don't know.
So,
I thought you can have an abortion really kind of like up to 4 months.
Okay.
But that, in my mind, that's inhumane to me because that 4 months is just
and that 4 months is 16 weeks.
Yeah. 16 weeks.
So
yeah, I mean, but some people have done that. A lot of people. Yeah.
So that's not too. So Mississippi at 15 weeks is not too far. They're just under that. The 6 weeks, I think, is the one that has people like, wow. Because I know when I was reading an article, again, we're not going to get back into it, but the fact that a lot of women don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So, but okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll wrap it on up. Yeah. If you could let our people know where they can find us.
Yeah, so again, everyone, as always, go on YouTube. And we always ask that you subscribe, and that is free. So that is the great part about it. There is no payment that needs to be made. And the benefit, what I always like to point out, is that you get all of our shows, you get a notification to let you know when they're uploaded. So you don't have to look for them. You actually get that notification on your phone or your tablet, wherever you, whatever device you're using. Also too, follow us, on TikTok at Brabell Speaks. Mm-hmm. Our IG page, which is Brabell.speaks. And then if you just want to reach out to us, you can do that at our Gmail account, which is brabellspeaks03@gmail.com. And I feel like I left something out. I did mention TikTok. So that was
IG, you did it all.
I did IG too, and YouTube and that. So that was it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I am a woman.
Because I'm a woman, hear me roar.
Yeah. Let's see. My week has been awesome. I'm gonna think about it. You got yours in your head?
No, but I'm gonna just say what comes to me. I am hungry.
You are hungry. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm in a good place though. I am positive. I feel like I am serendipity.
Hey, yeah. I like that.
Do it.
I'm gonna say, and I think I said this one before, but I am growing, and I feel it. You know, I feel the difference. I feel different. And I'm grateful for that. But thank you guys for watching another episode of Random Thoughts, and we're out. Bye.
Talk to you later. Oh, and again, we're all about to be out, but #1 podcast in the Triad.
Oh, we are the #1 podcast.
Let's not forget
in the Triad. Yes. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.